Jason Momoa just said the words no one expected to hear. Not from the man who called Lisa Bonet his queen. Not from the actor who once said he'd waited his whole life for her. And definitely not from the Hollywood couple we thought would last forever. But now the silence is broken. And what Jason just revealed, it wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a betrayal. It was something more devastating. Because after 16 years of sacred love, blended family dinners, and red carpets full of quiet fire, Jason finally admitted the truth. I knew it was over, and it all came down to one moment. Just one. One moment that shattered the illusion. One moment that made everything feel final. One moment that even he couldn't ignore. So what was it? Was it something she said? Was it the way she looked at him? Or was it the silence between them that finally spoke louder than love? This isn't a story about a breakup. It's about that quiet second when everything you believed slips away. And for Jason Momoa, that second rewrote everything. Before the headlines, before the divorce, before the silence, there was a love story that felt sacred. Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet weren't just any Hollywood couple. They were the Hollywood couple. The soulful pair who made red carpets feel like altars, who made fans believe that love could last, even in an industry where marriages collapse like movie sets. For years, they seemed untouchable. Jason spoke about Lisa like she was mythic. In interviews, he'd beam. "She's my queen," he once said. "She's the one." And people believed him. How could they not? His eyes lit up when he said her name. His body language softened around her. It was devotion, raw, real, visible. And for Lisa, who had long been the embodiment of cool, ethereal elegance, Jason brought a spark of grounded joy. They balanced each other, fire and earth, chaos and calm. They didn't flaunt their love. They didn't play into tabloids or orchestrate photo ops. They protected their relationship like a sacred ritual. No drama, no spectacle, just shared glances, quiet smiles, and years of togetherness. They raised a blended family, stood by each other through fame's rise and retreat, and always kept one foot out of the Hollywood machine. It was that balance, the sacred and the simple, that made people root for them. When they finally married in 2017, after over a decade together, it didn't feel like a climax. It felt like a continuation. They were already soul-tied. The ceremony was just the formal echo of a bond everyone thought was unshakable. So when the divorce announcement came in early 2022, it didn't just break headlines. It broke hearts. Not because people can't accept that relationships end, but because this one wasn't supposed to. This one made people believe. If Jason and Lisa could fall apart, who was safe? But what the world didn't see, what Jason never shared until now, was that the ending didn't come suddenly. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was slow, quiet, and eventually undeniable. "I knew it was over," Jason said, "and it all came down to one moment. But to understand that moment, we have to understand what was happening beneath the surface. Because even soulmates can drift." While the world saw harmony, the truth behind closed doors was more complicated. Jason's career had skyrocketed. From Game of Thrones to Aquaman, he became a global icon. Suddenly, he was on sets in faraway countries for months at a time. Press tours, brand deals, studio demands. The kind of fame that consumes everything in its path. And Lisa, she was pulling away from the spotlight. She'd spent decades in the industry. Her spirit was quieter now, more grounded. She wanted peace, roots, stillness. She wasn't chasing premieres. She was chasing presence. Two paths, both valid, but slowly splitting. Sources close to the couple began to murmur about the distance, emotional and physical. Jason loved the road, the adventure, the grind. Lisa loved the hearth, the calm, the ritual. They were becoming two different elements moving at different speeds. Jason, ever the free spirit, tried to balance both. He spoke often about being a family man, about returning home. But home began to feel more like a stopover than a sanctuary. Lisa, for her part, began dropping hints. In an interview not long before their split, she spoke about letting go of things that no longer serve the soul. It sounded poetic, maybe even spiritual. But fans who read between the lines knew it meant more. They weren't fighting. That wasn't the issue. It was the absence of fight. There were no arguments to salvage. No dramatic scenes. Just emotional drift. And according to people close to them, the silence became louder than any screaming match ever could. They were sharing space, but not sharing the same rhythm. And slowly, quietly, the connection dulled. The sacredness they once held so tightly began to loosen. And then, one day, Jason experienced something, one specific moment, where the truth became impossible to unsee. It wasn't anger, he said. It was clarity. That's when he knew. He didn't say it out loud. He didn't cry or storm off. He just felt it. And once you see the end of something you once thought was unbreakable, there's no unseeing it. That was the moment it all shifted. And Jason Momoa never looked at their love the same way again. There's something haunting about realizing the end of a relationship isn't a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, irreversible flicker. For Jason Momoa, the moment he knew it was over wasn't during a fight. It wasn't in court. It wasn't even when they sat down to talk about separating. It was just one moment, mundane to the outside world, but monumental to him. In a recent offhand comment during an interview, Jason didn't offer specifics. He didn't name the day or the place, but he described a feeling, a freeze in time, when he looked at Lisa and something inside him shifted. "I saw it in her eyes," he said. "She was still there, but we weren't. No yelling, no chaos, just a subtle shift in energy. A moment of stillness so sharp, it cut through everything. They were at home. The kids were out. There was quiet between them. Not cold, just distant." Jason asked her something small. Her response wasn't mean. It was empty. And in that stillness, he felt it. The unraveling, the emotional vacuum, the awareness that what once bound them together was now just a fragile thread. "It wasn't what she said," he explained. "It was what she didn't." That was the moment his heart felt something his mind didn't want to believe. Lisa Bonet, his muse, his love, the woman who once held his soul, was already halfway gone. Not with spite, but with peace. That quiet heartbreak of someone who had already accepted the ending. And in that second, Jason did too. From that point forward, everything felt different. Their home didn't feel like home. The routines didn't feel sacred. They felt mechanical, like he was walking through the echo of a life that no longer fit. He wasn't leaving yet. He wasn't even speaking it aloud. But he knew. And that knowing haunted him, not because it was violent, but because it was final. And no one else saw it. Only him. When Jason and Lisa released their divorce statement in early 2022, it read like poetry. "We free each other to be who we are learning to become." There was no bitterness, no accusation, just mutual respect and surrender. But behind the soft language was a truth far heavier. This wasn't a sudden choice. It wasn't reactive. It was the formal, public step of something they had both been living privately for a long time. The divorce wasn't the breaking point. It was the aftershock of a quiet goodbye. Jason moved out with no spectacle. There were no pap shots, no custody battles. Just a man walking into a new chapter with tired eyes and a heavy heart. Fans were confused. Some refused to believe it. Others thought it was temporary. But Jason never corrected them, because he didn't have to. He'd already processed the ending months, maybe even years before it became official. Publicly, he showed up, smiling, grateful, strong. But something in his eyes lingered, something more distant, more subdued. And Lisa, she vanished from the public eye as always, graceful in her silence. But the fans kept asking, why? What happened? Was there more to the story? And maybe that's the most tragic part. There wasn't more. There wasn't infidelity. There wasn't betrayal. There wasn't a fight. There was just a moment. The moment he knew. And the quiet unraveling that followed. Even after the marriage ended, one thing remained sacred for Jason and Lisa. Their family. They made a pact, not just legal but emotional, to put the children first. to never let their personal pain bleed into their parenting, and to protect what little peace remained between them. Jason never publicly criticized Lisa, not once. Even as the media spun theories and fans speculated endlessly, he stayed quiet, respectfully, painfully quiet. And maybe now we know why. That moment, the one that changed everything, wasn't just about their love. It was about realizing that some endings deserve silence. That sometimes, speaking out too soon can cheapen something that once meant everything. But time has passed, and Jason, slowly, has begun letting the truth rise to the surface. Not to damage Lisa, not to relive pain, but to help others understand what love really looks like when it ends. "I'll always love her," he said in a recent interview. "We just became different people, and I think we both knew it. That's why he never told this story before, because it wasn't about blame. It was about becoming, about respecting the process of two people gently evolving in opposite directions." And for Jason, that moment of realization, when the silence between them said more than words ever could, was something he had to hold privately. Until now, some love stories don't end with fireworks. Some end with a glance, a pause, a breath that lingers too long between two people who used to read each other like scripture. Jason Momoa's story with Lisa Bonet didn't explode. It faded, quietly, softly, with a kind of dignity that only true love allows when it slips away. That one moment he finally revealed wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of his transformation. Because sometimes, it's not the fights or the flaws that undo us. It's the silence. The kind that creeps in unnoticed. The kind that feels like calm, until it reveals itself as emptiness. Jason saw it. He felt it. And for a while he held it alone. But now, by speaking it out loud, he's letting others know. Even the strongest bonds can unravel. Even the most beautiful love can change form. And even when the ending is silent, it still echoes. So if you've ever sat in that same quiet, wondering if the person across from you is still in it, you're not alone. Jason Momoa was there too. And now he's finally told us what that moment felt like. For more of the latest news, check out this video.